To my father. When I was growing up, you were not around very much. At least, that's how it felt back then. You left early in the morning, often before I was fully awake, and many evenings by the time you came home, the day was already ending. Sometimes I remember hearing the front door open late at night, the quiet sound of your footsteps in the hallway, while the rest of us were already asleep. As a child, I didn't understand that. All I noticed was that you were gone a lot. Other fathers seemed to be around more. They showed up at school events in the middle of the day. They stood on the sidelines at sports practice. Back then, I didn't really know where you were. I only knew you weren't there. But there are things I remember clearly now. Not the many days you were gone, but the moments when you were there. I remember the way you could fix almost anything in the house. A broken chair, a door that wouldn't close properly, a fan that had stopped working. You would stand there quietly with your tools, looking at the problem for a moment like it was something you were having a conversation with. And somehow, after a little while, it worked again. As a child, that felt like magic. I also remember the day you taught me how to ride my first bicycle. You ran beside me down the street, one hand steady on the back of the seat while I kept shouting, "Don't let go! Don't let go!" You kept saying, "I've got you." And then one moment you did let go. I didn't even realize it until I was already moving forward on my own. When I turned around, you were standing in the distance with that quiet smile on your face. I remember the evenings when you taught me how to catch a ball. You would throw it gently at first, then a little faster. Every time I missed, you would say, "Watch the ball." Simple advice, but somehow it always worked. And I remember the way you would sit beside me when I was trying to fix something myself for the first time. You never rushed in to do it for me. You would just watch quietly and say, "Try again." Back then, those moments felt small. They were just ordinary parts of growing up. But now that I'm older, I see them differently. Because I understand something today that I couldn't understand as a child. You were working most of the time. Those long days, those early mornings, those late nights. They weren't about staying away from us. They were about building a life for us. Making sure the house stayed standing. Making sure the bills were paid. Making sure everything we needed was always there. And somehow, even with all that responsibility, when you were around, you made sure I felt it. You made sure I learned things. How to fix something instead of throwing it away. How to keep trying when something didn't work the first time. How to stand steady and solve a problem calmly. I didn't see it then, but I see it now. Life has a way of teaching you how heavy responsibility can be. There are days when things break, bills arrive, problems appear without warning. And sometimes I find myself doing something that suddenly reminds me of you. Fixing something around the house. Checking something twice to make sure it works. Trying to stay calm when something goes wrong. In those moments, I realize something. You weren't absent. You were carrying the weight of our life so the rest of us didn't have to. And the moments you did have with me, you used to teach me things that stayed. So this letter is something I should have said long ago. Thank you. Thank you for the long days you worked, even when you must have been tired. Thank you for the things you repaired that I didn't even realize were broken. Thank you for the lessons you taught me in those small moments we shared. I didn't understand them then, but I do now. And I'm grateful for all of it. From your child who finally understands.